Hello, and welcome to Lopes on Movies. My name is Joey Lopes, and today I am joined by Kyle
Yo.
and Connor.
Hey, Joey. You know, I always wonder, like, who are you gonna say first? You know, and I'm on the edge of my seat. Like, you're gonna say, you know, I don't know who you're gonna go to, Kyle or me or.
Yeah, I mix it up every time, I feel like. I don't think I have a go-to. I wonder if you did, like, statistics of the episodes, if there would be, like, a trend of whose name I say first.
I mean, I'm sure many people have noticed on our subreddit that on episodes where you say me last, I'm much lower. I'm sadder. It's just I'm not there.
Right, yeah, because you feel like you're lesser. You're second in line. Yeah.
It's like I have a rough day at the office, come home, record a podcast, and I don't even get first billing.
Well, luckily, it's not a problem for today, right?
Right. You should be using that data, Joey, and to know that you get peak Kyle performance when he's first. So you
Exactly.
Should,
And that's what we want. That's what all the
Right.
fans want.
That's right.
Well, and here's what I want,
Yeah.
which is to talk about a movie.
Ooh.
So we
They
actually
still make
saw
those
a movie.
things?
Yeah, they still make them, believe it or not. But they're not. They don't open in theaters anymore. I don't even know where the
Good.
theater is. So now it's like if you want to watch a movie, you got to open up your TV, and click some buttons on your remote and scroll to an option in a list, and then select it, and then it comes up on the screen. It's amazing what technology can do today.
You just say open up your TV.
I was trying to sound as as awkward as possible, describing like I don't know. Streaming is great, I guess. And now that's how we're all watching movies. And we decided to close out the year of 2020 watching the new Pixar joint, which is the movie called Soul.
Soul.
Yeah, Soul. So how about Connor, you give us a synopsis of Soul.
Okay, so Soul is about a musician who lost his passion for music. Wait, sorry. Let me read that again. A musician who has lost his passion for music is transported. This is kind of a weird synopsis because I don't even agree with it. Did he ever lose his passion for music?
I don't think so.
That's a weird. This is the IMDb description, and I don't even agree with it.
Wow, it's
Who
wrong.
wrote this? It says,
What do you know?
this is what-
IMDb wrong again.
This is what it says here. It says a musician who has lost his passion for music is transported out of his body and must find a way back with help from an infant soul learning about herself. So half of that is right.
Part of it's right.
Like
The
after
first
the
part's
first sentence, it's pretty accurate.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, so the first set, I don't think this guy ever lost his passion for music. In fact, he's still driven very much so with his passion for music. So that's a weird first few words.
Who are they paying to write these IMDb synopsises?
I don't know, but I want to find out. Yeah, but anyway, so Jamie Foxx is the lead character. He plays Joe, and Tina Fey is the voice of the little infant soul 22. All right, so how do we want to go? Kyle, what do you think of Soul?
Despite despising jazz, I enjoyed Soul a lot. It was probably my favorite Pixar movie since probably Coco, I guess.
Yeah, probably Coco. That sounds about right.
It was I was not expecting the sort of things this movie goes into. I thought it was funnier and weirder than I thought it would be. I really thought it was just about like some guy that lost his love for music or something and had to get back to it. But it ended up being like this weird like I don't even know how to describe it. But
Yeah,
no,
it's
I
tough.
really enjoyed it.
This weird exploration of how people develop their personalities in a spiritual world before they're born.
Pixar's
Soul.
they're getting far out with stuff. Inside Out is similar, where they're getting really like everything is kind of like a metaphor or something.
Mhm.
Like, and
Well,
I think
they're
right?
creating these, and this is like pretty much. I guess it's Pete Docter's bit at this point,
Pete
where
Docter.
he's creating these like really really complex inner worlds that are like externalizing internal things. So like when Inside Out, it was like inside of you is this entire world with living beings that constitute your emotions, right? And in this, there's this whole world that exists prior to when you're born that creates where your soul is like gestating to develop the personality that you'll be born with. It's like insanely high concept stuff that and I saw a really funny tweet about this where that was like a film critic who was like, all you people that were complaining about Tenet being confusing better not complain about this, because this might honestly be like the amount of exposition they need to just explain what's happening is, it's funny this is a Pixar movie because I can't imagine any kid following this.
Oh, not at all.
It doesn't feel like it's a movie for kids.
I think they do a good job with it though, overall, of like explaining what they're doing. And I think there's even one point where they straight up say like, don't think too much about this, and like this could have been anything. This is just the world to describe what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Like for you. Same with the same with voices that are happening for the characters and whatnot.
Sure. It's just very interesting. I think you have to respect Pete Docter and the Pixar team for constantly trying new and ambitious things, and
except when they're not, right?
Well, except when they're not, right? I mean, so the whole bit with Pixar now is ever since they were bought by Disney, they've been operating on like a one for me, like 12 for you model of creating things where it's like the artists get to make like one movie every couple of years that is unique and original and that they're passionate about, and then everything else is like a sequel. Like if you look at the movies of the past 10 years or so, you got like Cars 2, Monsters University, Finding Dory, Cars 3, Incredibles 2, Toy Story 4, and then out of like the past 10 years or so, I think the movies that stand out the most are Inside Out, Coco, and this. And all three of those movies are actually very similar, I think, in a lot of ways. I think Inside Out and Soul are the most obviously similar in terms of their like really high concept premises, and creating this whole world to explain some wild internal thing. But I think that Coco and Soul have a lot in common with their very, very distinct like cultural worldview on a particular area of like music. Like because obviously with Coco is like the whole thing with Coco is how deeply it went into Mexican culture, and how very meticulously researched it was to be very accurate, and also dealing with a character who wants to be a musician and using music as sort of a emotional arc for the movie. And Soul basically does that with New York jazz culture. And it's very accurate. Even the jazz snobs are pretty okay with Soul. They are pretty notorious for not liking any Hollywood movie that uses jazz. Like it's funny how much jazz people tend to hate like Whiplash and La La Land because they don't represent jazz in a like 100% accurate way to their experience of the music. Which,
they're also just awful movies. that
Kyle?
cannot be forgotten.
Kyle, hey, I
you went
mentioned
first today.
You went first. You'll cool it. You can be nice.
Hey, this is positive, Kyle. I hate Whiplash.
Whiplash is great. I love Whiplash.
Whiplash is a great movie, but I need to keep up this bit.
I think it's I do think it's interesting though, because there definitely is a interesting conversation to be had about the portrayal of jazz in movies, and I think it's interesting why I think that a lot of the jazz elitists out there have a problem with Whiplash and La La Land, which it is what it is. It's disappointing. I wish they could kind of see past sort of the maybe less accurate elements and see kind of what those movies are using jazz for, and how they're really, I think, a positive like factor for the music in general is turning more people onto it. I think it's a great thing no matter what. But if you're talking about accurate portrayals, especially of like just New York culture and the New York music scene, I think Soul probably gets that the most right out of any recent movie. I don't know. Yeah. Connor, you live in New York, so you could probably very easily tell that this feels very, very correct to a New York lifestyle.
Oh yeah, like especially just seeing all the locations. They did such a great job with just like the city, you know, like just
Oh
all
yeah.
the scenes where he just like there's a lot of scenes where he's running around the city to go to different places because he needs to figure out all these things to do up until like his big moment, which is his big gig that he's gonna
Hmm.
get. And it's like it's pretty wild how like perfectly they got it all, and it's also especially because of the time that we're in right now. It's very like it's almost like feels nostalgic because it's not something that's
Yeah.
on the streets right now or anything like that
Sure.
because of what's going on with the pandemic.
Oh yeah.
But it makes you like long for like wanting to get back to that point. At least for me, that's what I was like, just
Oh
to
yeah.
go to a show like that, like Joe plays and like
Hmm.
eventually gets it to plays in this big gig, and it's like I'd love to go to do that. You know, I'd love
Yeah.
to see a show like that right now.
Oh man,
It's
this movie absolutely hits different with during the pandemic. I think it's some very obvious ways. I mean, for me, I just kept thinking the entire time, man, I wish I was watching this in a theater because it really feels like a movie that was designed to be played on a gigantic screen. Like
Hmm.
some of the visual design of the other world in the movie is really interesting, and I could see it being like this overwhelming like audiovisual experience if you were watching it as it was intended in to be in a theater. And I think it's really funny because like even at the end of the movie, like right at the end of the credits, they do one of those classic like Ferris Bueller bits with the "Oh, you're still here? Go home. The movie's over." You
Which
know, it's
works
like
great on a laptop screen.
it's like I am home. Oh man, it's so sad. Yeah,
yeah.
so this was like definitely in terms of like recent movies that I've watched, definitely more so than Capone
Hey,
or
hey,
Bill and Ted
hey.
3. I mean, I love that the mansion in those movies, but they didn't make me think, "Oh, I got to see this in a theater." This movie made me think I got to see this in a theater. And I think it probably would have played a lot better there. But I did like it quite a bit regardless. So let's talk a little bit about the story of the movie. I'm curious, like, what did you guys make of the arc of the main character? Because I've seen a lot of so I'm friends with a lot of musicians, and I've seen some differing opinions on sort of the ultimate resolution of the movie. And we don't have to go into spoilers, but I'm curious, like, do you feel that this movie is ultimately like for or against the idea of like really chasing your dreams at all costs? Because I feel like it's kind of nuanced in a way I wasn't expecting, and there's a lot that goes into that question.
Yeah, I can take that first, Kyle, if
Okay.
you're okay with that, because I know you
Yes.
usually want to be first. Apparently, you get better Kyle from first position.
You're not missing much.
Okay. I think that this movie wants people to be well rounded. Like
Hmm.
where that's the message that I'm getting, and I think that they also kind of struggle with that same question that you're
Hmm.
posing, and I think they even said that they had a different ending originally for the film, and then as they were making it, they realized, we can't do it the way that we want. It just
Mm.
like the way that it's going, like we need to have some kind of different change, and it would make, and I think it all leads to that you should have a passion. That is good to pursue the things you enjoy, but you have to embrace all the things aspects of what it means to be
Hmm.
alive.
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
think
and you get a little
that's
bit
what
of
I
that
get.
from
You're right.
yeah, yeah, and
That's
I
what I
think
get.
the godlike beings in the other world sort of hint at that concept as well, because the
Hmm.
whole bit of the movie is this lost soul 22 that Joe, who erroneously, or well, I guess he dies and he gets sent to this other world. He is being tapped as a mentor for this lost soul to find its spark, which is basically like the thing that will give it the motivation and basically the motivation to go down to earth and become a living being. It's the thing that defines them as a person, right?
Hmm.
And the whole movie is suggesting that like your spark is finding like what you're passionate about, like what is the thing that you care about most in life. And it's a interesting exploration of that, and I'm not sure if by the end of the movie the it's kind of ambiguous what the spark ends up being, you know? Like they don't actually really like straight up tell you anything in particular. It's very this is why I'm saying like a movie like this would play very strangely to kids, I think, because I it's very nuanced and not at all telegraphing what it's saying to you directly. There's a lot that you have to kind of intuit for yourself, I feel like, to kind of understand where the emotional arc of the movie is ending. And I think that's interesting. I wonder if had this movie opened in theaters, if like parents taking their kids to see it, like would would they be like disappointed in the end? Like would they feel like I don't would their kids like not ultimately respond to it? I don't know. Like maybe you guys could think like maybe this will play better to a younger audience than I would think. But I don't know, man. This feels like a movie that's made for adults who are struggling with their life choices.
This is one of those Pixar movies that's more for the parents that are depressed than the kids looking for a laugh.
Well, the thing that's funny is like when I was thinking of a movie like Inside Out, which is also very high concept and could be, I could imagine it being a little confusing. It still behaves a lot like a standard Pixar movie where there's a lot of like fun action scenes and like stuff that anybody could generally get into regardless of their nuanced understanding of the story. But this movie doesn't really feel that way. There's obviously a lot of like visual comedy and just like general and the pace is very quick, but it doesn't feel like your standard Pixar animated film. It feels like something else, which I think is the most interesting aspect of it for me, at least, where you really didn't know for sure at the end where it was ultimately going to go and what the resolution was going to be, because usually you kind of get an idea of what it's going to be. I feel like these movies are very emotionally sophisticated, I think, for basically family films, but they're not hard to parse necessarily. But this one I feel like it kind of is in a sort of refreshing way.
Like if you look at the structure of the movie, like it does remind you a lot of other Pixar movies. But you're right though, it's weird. It almost feels like a Pixar movie, but at the same time feels nothing like a Pixar movie. Because, they still got the cute animals, you got the goofy characters, the physical like comedy and all that stuff. But then it's like, oh yeah, I guess I could die now. It's like what? I mean, it all works. It's just, I don't know. I feel like as a kid, this would not have been my favorite Pixar movie.
Oh yeah, no, I'd be thinking like, oh, Toy Story, because
exactly,
like toys are great.
Or Cars 2, yeah.
But I would say it doesn't matter. Like I like that.
Oh no, it doesn't matter.
I don't think
I don't care.
Not everything has to be for kids, and this one plays well to adults. If anything, like there's always been a thing in this country at least that animation is just kids. Like that's always what people think. It's only for children. It's what animated things are, but it doesn't have to be.
Really yeah, obviously, yeah. I think,
and that's not how it is. Yeah. Like in other countries around the world, like it's not. It's simply not. And
I think it's a myth that's perpetuated both by people and by the American animation industry itself, which will pretty much only make family films more often than not. I mean, there's things on television that aren't really like just for one audience. I always say that the animation audience is basically in America. There's two kinds of animated thing. There's the 3D animated family film, and there's well, I guess you could say then there's like two. Then there's two more on TV. There's the like kids show on Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon or whatever, and then there's the like raunchy adult animated comedy, basically. And those are like the three modes of animation in this country. So pretty much most people are conditioned to believe that if they're going to see an animated movie, it's probably going to be entirely a family film. And I feel like the animation industry is more than happy to perpetuate that myth, at least in America anyway. But that's something that generally young people don't agree with or don't believe because they love anime so much. And, anime, of course, is made for all audiences in Japan. Or
even John Belushi. John Belushi's trying to get into anime.
John Belushi is trying to get into anime. Yeah, he recently tweeted out recently. He was like, "Is any anime fans out there? I just watched Your Name and it was amazing."
That is such a dangerous tweet that he doesn't know what he's doing.
Oh man, no, the rabbit hole of anime is once you go down it, you can't get back up. But the point being, I think animation is a really really awesome thing, and it can tell so many different kinds of stories, which is why like I've enjoyed seeing the baby steps that Pixar has been taking lately to try to like break a little bit free of the constraints of the American animation industry to make something that's a little bit more sophisticated, or for an audience that doesn't have to play to everybody. It'll play specifically to adults in a more interesting way, because really like they don't have that much opportunity to do that. Like Pixar is lucky in that they have more creative freedom than I think a lot of other animation studios do. But even them, it's like I said, it's very much a, one for me, 10 for you situation, where they're lucky when they're able to release something like this, and they're lucky if people see it. So it's cool that they're trying, and I very much appreciate that. I still would call this like pretty much like it definitely is of a piece, I think, with the Pixar genre of storytelling, but it absolutely is taking some very nice clear baby steps away from just being a for all ages family adventure film, which is wonderful. I would love to see the American animation industry become a little bit more nuanced in the same way that I feel like the Japanese animation industry has been for forever. That's why we need to get more people to watch Gandhi Tartakovsky's Primal on Adult Swim, which I'm saying as with the full knowledge that I still haven't watched the second season.
Yes.
But
all right, can we get back to Soul, please? All right, so I want to bring up something that I didn't really like. This might be just me.
Problems. Here we go.
I want to know what you guys think. I want to know. I don't want to end it on problems, so that's why I want to do it now before we like. I don't want the last thing to be a problem. All right. The parts that I don't really like, and a couple of movies have done this somewhat recently, and it works sometimes. I thought there was too much of what I would call the Family Guy flashback bits that they do in this. Like, maybe you guys weren't bothered by it, but to me, it's like, why do we need that? Like, I didn't laugh at those. I wanted to. I was trying to, because there were scenes where we were going to 22's like past mentors that didn't work, and then you have like. This is not one of them, but it's like Albert Einstein getting annoyed at 22 for not understanding what he's saying. It's stuff like that, and it's just not something that I think is necessary.
Well,
what do you guys think of those?
I think the movie it tries a lot of things, and not everything hits. And I think that goes broadly for the whole movie. And I think that generally speaking, like, its heart's in the right place, and I forgive it for any kind of clunkiness that it sometimes has. But yeah, like things like that, like sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's just like a little bit overwrought. You got like, like a cutting to the soul of like Abraham Lincoln, telling like a quick little one-liner, or just like a quick little joke that's not really like, that doesn't feel. I'm a big like hater of any kind of like ironic distance that's done by like kind of dumb quick one-liners and quips.
But that's what those Family Guy things are.
And
like
yeah, there's a little bit of that in this, and I think it's just a thing that's so popular with in things today, like the kind of like aside where you say something that's just kind of like ironic, or sort of like winking at the audience a little bit. Like that kind of stuff usually takes me out of a thing, and take it or leave it. I think some of them are kind of funny, some of them are just kind of like an eye roll, or like a quick eye roll. It's so quick that it doesn't really like register to me as like, oh man, this movie is just utterly irredeemable because of
it doesn't ruin the movie, but it's just a thing that I could have gone without. I could have gone with that. All right,
Connor, why do you hate this movie so much?
Yeah, I know.
It's just trying to make you laugh. It's just trying to move your soul, and here you are making fun of their jokes about Carl Jung.
Great joke. Kids would love that joke.
Kids would love the Carl Jung jokes for sure.
Joey, what did you think of the music in Soul?
Oh, the music's great. I think it's I really appreciate the differing styles of music to kind of communicate give a different impression of the two different worlds in the movie. You have the real world, and then you have this world of souls. and they were actually both composed by different people. The World of the Souls was Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, who of course are like the biggest names in Hollywood right now for movie scores, basically. And outside of that, you had John Batiste, who is a very, very renowned jazz musician and composer these days. I think he did a lot of stuff with Colbert. I think that's what he's most famous for, the Colbert Band. But yeah, so you have like basically like a very, very distinctly jazz influenced score in the real world, and then this kind of like synthesized, more vibe based score in the soul world. I think that contrast is really really interesting. It's like the difference between something that's more ethereal and something that's more earthy. And it works perfectly to communicate the two different locations. And then they got the best people for the job too, so you have to give them credit for that.
Yeah, I don't think Pixar has trouble getting the best people for any job.
Yeah, that is certainly true. The final thoughts, guys. Is there anything you want to leave the audience with regards to the Pixar animated film Soul?
I just love what Pixar does in general. Like they go for things like when they're doing the stuff that's creative and not just sequels of their other things that they're just trying to regurgitate a lot of the time. Like this one, Soul, like Coco, Inside Out, like those ones are just so like great. Like the writing is so excellent, and I read an article about how they were like debating like throughout the time, like they really worked hard on the writing, like to make sure the script is good, and then everything else is to the nines. It's they're great. They're the one good thing about Disney.
Yeah. I still have trouble admitting that, so I'm just gonna refrain.
I know it's hard to say it's Disney, like. I know. maybe cut that.
Kyle, what about you?
Well, I think it's ridiculous to think that Disney doesn't make amazing things everywhere, because they do. They're just the best. Number one.
Irredeemable company, my number one company.
Exactly, number one company, my favorite company. And all I'll say is that ending just made me think, man, I cannot wait for Soul 2 coming 2022.
Wow, that's a quick turnaround.
Oh no.
Well, don't worry. Next year they'll do The Good Dinosaur 2, and then after that will be Soul 2.
We've all been waiting for The Good Dinosaur 2.
I mean, we all have. Like,
that's really funny.
That was the worst part about this movie, is that it wasn't The Good Dinosaur 2.
Yeah, I know. I kept wishing that there were dinosaurs in it, and they never showed up. I was wondering what was going on there. Although, the research is saying now that like dinosaurs looked like chickens, and I feel like that's like science needs to stop in the realm of dinosaurs, because they're ruining dinosaurs.
Just leave them alone. Jeez.
Like dinosaurs used to be so cool, they were like these giant reptilian beasts, and now they're basically like big chickens. It's like
it's really sad.
Just stop. Let us have dinosaurs. We don't need to know what they actually were like. But Soul is great. I think it's a good movie. I would definitely recommend it. It's definitely the better of the Pixar films that came out this year.
Wait, was there another one?
I said that because I was curious if you guys even knew this. Yeah, in March there was another Pixar movie that came out called Onward, but it came out with like no fanfare whatsoever.
What was that? Oh, I don't remember that at all.
I have no idea, but
is that the one with Tom Holland and Chris Pratt?
Yes,
that might
it
be
is.
Right. That might be right.
It is.
Yes, this is definitely the better of the two, and I didn't even remember Onward until 2 seconds ago.
It's funny, how sometimes like things get released and they just get buried like immediately. But luckily that didn't happen for Soul.
No,
I think a lot of people are watching Soul and having opinions about it. So I recommend that you maybe watch it for yourself. All right, we'll see you next week.